On my 70th birthday, while I was blowing out candles on the cake my late wife used to make, my stepchildren handed me an envelope. Inside were eviction papers demanding I leave the house I'd built with my own hands 40 years ago. They thought they were removing an obstacle to their inheritance. They had no idea they just triggered the biggest mistake of their lives. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you're listening in the comments. Look, I'm going to tell you something that'll make your blood boil. My name's Harold Mitchell, and I'm 70 years old. Until last Tuesday, I thought family meant something. Boy, was I wrong. It started like any other October morning. I got up at 5:30 like I have for 40 years. Made coffee in the kitchen my wife Margaret and I designed together. Sat in my chair watching the sunrise through that bay window she insisted we needed. Margaret's been gone 3 years now. Cancer took her. But I still feel her everywhere in this house. The floors we picked out together. The fireplace I built with my own hands. The garden where she grew those prize-winning roses. This house? It's our life's work. 40 years of memories in every room. So when Rebecca and Marcus called to say they were coming for my birthday dinner, I was excited. Rebecca's 45, a hotshot lawyer in Denver. Marcus is 42, got his father's charm but drinks too much. I raised these kids like they were my own blood when I married their mother 15 years ago. They showed up at 2 p.m. sharp. Rebecca in her BMW, Marcus in his Lexus. Both cars worth more than most people make in a year. Cars I helped pay for with those trust funds I set up when they still called me Dad. "Happy birthday," Rebecca says, giving me one of those careful hugs you give old people you think might break. Come in, I said. I made Margaret's chocolate cake. Took me 3 tries to get the frosting right. We sat in the living room with all our family photos, their graduations, their weddings. I walked Rebecca down the aisle because her real father couldn't be bothered to show up. Family vacations when they actually seemed happy to include me. So Rebecca says, "How have you been managing out here all by yourself?" Red flag number 1, the way she said managing like I was barely surviving. "I'm doing fine," I told her. "The house keeps me busy. I've been working on that deck extension Margaret always wanted." Marcus jumps in. "Harold, that's actually what we wanted to talk about." Here we go. "We're concerned about you living alone in such a big house," Rebecca says, sliding into full lawyer mode. "It's isolated out here. If something happened..." "Nothing's going to happen. I'm 70, not 90. "But you're not getting any younger," Marcus says. "This place is huge. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, that workshop downstairs. It's more house than one person needs." "It's my house." "We know that," Rebecca says quickly. "But we think it's time to consider more practical arrangements." That word, practical. Margaret always said when Rebecca started talking about practical arrangements, she was planning to rearrange someone's life for her own benefit. "What kind of arrangements?" "There's a beautiful assisted living community in Denver," Rebecca says. "Mountain View Estates. Independent living units, but with medical care and social activities. People your age." "People my age? Like I was some expired product that needed special handling." "And what happens to this house?" "Well," Rebecca says, "the house would need to be sold to fund your care. Real estate values here have gone up dramatically. The property's probably worth close to $2.8 million now." $2.8 million. They'd already had it appraised. "You've done your homework," I said. "We've researched your options," Marcus admits. "My options, not our family's future, my options." The whole thing was choreographed. They'd rehearsed this conversation. Every objection I might raise, they had an answer ready. "Harold," Rebecca says, "you can't live here forever." "Why not?" "Because you're 70 years old and living alone in the middle of nowhere," Marcus snaps, losing patience. "What if you fall? What if you have a heart attack?" "I have neighbors. I have friends." "That's not professional care," Rebecca shoots back. "We love you, but we have to be realistic about your limitations." Limitations. That word hit me like a punch. "What limitations?" "Age-related decline," Rebecca says in her lawyer voice. "Slower reflexes, memory issues, decreased mobility. People your age need structured support." "I don't have memory issues." "You forgot Marcus's birthday last month." I had forgotten Marcus's birthday, mainly because Marcus had made it clear that family obligations were becoming inconvenient for his busy schedule. People forget birthdays, Rebecca. That doesn't mean they're senile. We're not saying you're senile, Marcus says quickly. We're saying you need to plan ahead while you're still capable of making good decisions. Still capable. Another knife twist. They kept going. How the house was too big. How I was isolated. How they'd become responsible for dealing with consequences if something happened to me. Then Rebecca drops the bomb. How long have you been planning this conversation, I asked. A few months, she admits, since Mom's estate was settled. A few months. While I was grieving, they were plotting. I think I'd like you to leave now, I said. Harold, we haven't finished. Yes, we have. No, we haven't, Rebecca says, opening her briefcase, because there's one more thing you need to see. She pulls out a legal document and sets it on my coffee table. Eviction notice. Effective 30 days from today. I stared at those papers like they were written in a foreign language. Eviction notice for what? For this house, Rebecca says. Marcus and I used Mom's life insurance as collateral for a legal action claiming adverse possession of this property. What does that mean? Mom lived here for 15 years. Under Colorado law, that establishes joint ownership rights that transfer to her heirs. I picked up the document with shaking hands. Legal gibberish, but the meaning was crystal clear. They were claiming partial ownership of my house and saying I was violating their rights by refusing their care arrangements. This is insane. This is legal, Rebecca says. Harold, we tried the easy way. You refuse to be reasonable. So you're evicting me from my own house. We're exercising our legal rights to ensure proper management of Mom's estate. Margaret left everything to me. Mom's assets, yes, but not her ownership interest in jointly held property. The legal theory was probably garbage, but it would take months to fight in court, months of bleeding money to lawyers while my own stepchildren tried to steal my home. How long have you been planning this? Since Mom's funeral, Marcus admits quietly. Since Margaret's funeral. While I was burying my wife, they were planning to bury me. Get out, I said. Harold, get out of my house, now. This is exactly the irrational behavior that proves our point, Rebecca says. You're not capable of reasonable decisions anymore. The only irrational decision I made was treating you like family. Rebecca's professional mask cracked. Harold, understand something. This house, this property, this lifestyle, it's not sustainable. You're going to accept our help, or you're going to lose everything anyway. Maybe, but I'll lose it fighting people who deserve to be fought. They left with their legal papers and fake concern. I watched their expensive cars drive away and realized I was looking at strangers. People I'd loved and supported for 15 years had just declared war on me. But here's what they didn't know. The man who built a $15 million construction empire from nothing wasn't going down without a fight. That night, I sat in my workshop with their eviction notice. Wasn't building anything. Just thinking. And getting angry. Really angry. By morning, I knew exactly what I had to do. First call was to my lawyer, James Crawford. James has handled my legal stuff for 20 years. He helped me adopt Rebecca and Marcus when I married Margaret. Drew up their trust funds. My will. Everything. He'd also watched them manipulate me for years. Harold, James says when I explain the situation, I'm not surprised. Disappointed, but not surprised. You've been warning me. Since Margaret got sick, they've been asking questions about your estate, your assets, your plans. I thought they were concerned about Margaret's care. Turns out they were planning your funeral. What are my options with this eviction notice? Legally, I can fight it, but it'll take months and cost a fortune. Rebecca's theory is creative but probably worthless. Problem is proving that. And, practically, they're gambling you don't have the stomach for a legal war. They want you to fold. They're about to learn they picked the wrong old man to mess with. What do you mean? I changed my will 3 months ago. Everything goes to charity now. Silence on the other end. Harold, everything? Every penny. The house, investments, business assets. Those trust funds they think they're inheriting. All of it goes to the Margaret Mitchell Foundation for Cancer Research. That's $15 million. I know exactly what it's worth, and I know exactly what it's going to cost them. Once they find out, that's the point. I want them to commit fully to their plan first. Let them sign contracts, make arrangements, burn every bridge back to decency. Then I'll tell them what they're really fighting for. When? When they think they've won. Next call was to my doctor, Patricia Hendricks. If they were planning competency challenges, I needed proof I was sharp as a tack. Harold, you're one of the healthiest 70-year-olds I've treated, she says. Blood pressure excellent, cognitive function perfect, physical condition better than most 60-year-olds. I need that in writing. Consider it done. Why are your stepchildren challenging your competency? Because they want my money, and I'm in the way. After everything you've done for them? That's exactly why they think they can get away with it. Third call was to my accountant, Sarah Martinez. Sarah, I need a complete financial audit. Everything I've ever spent on Rebecca and Marcus. Education, trust funds, house payments, car loans, emergency money. All of it. That's going to be a significant amount. I want them to see exactly what their greed is going to cost them. That afternoon, I drove to Margaret's grave. I've been coming here every Tuesday since the funeral, usually bring flowers from her garden. Today I brought the eviction notice. Well, sweetheart, I said, sitting on the bench I installed beside her headstone, your children finally showed their true colors. Wind moved through the cemetery trees. Margaret always loved fall in Colorado. I know you hoped they'd grow up, learn to appreciate what they had. I hoped that too. I pulled out the legal papers, but they're not children anymore. They're adults who chose greed over gratitude. Ravens landed near Margaret's stone. Margaret's favorite birds. She said they were smart and remembered faces. Held grudges. I've been thinking about what you'd want me to do, whether you'd want me to forgive them. The ravens looked at me with bright eyes. But you know what? I don't think forgiveness is what they need. I think they need consequences. I folded the eviction notice. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to let them think they've won. Let them celebrate their clever legal maneuvering. The ravens tilted their heads. And then I'm going to teach them the most expensive lesson of their lives. The Margaret Mitchell Foundation is going to do amazing work with that $15 million. Cancer research, patient support, treatment centers. Your name helping people for generations. I kissed my fingers and touched her stone. Rebecca and Marcus are going to learn that when you try to take everything from someone, you sometimes end up with nothing. Next 2 weeks, Rebecca and Marcus kept the pressure on. Phone calls about assisted living, emails about house listings, legal letters about property management. I played my part perfectly. The confused, overwhelmed widower slowly accepting defeat. I've been thinking about Mountain View Estates, I told Rebecca during one call. Maybe you could arrange a tour. Harold, I'm so glad you're being reasonable. I've already talked to their admissions coordinator. They have a beautiful unit available. And the house? We've had 3 real estate agents evaluate it. Consensus is $2.8 million. That'll cover your care costs for life. That's reassuring. We're family, Harold. We'll handle everything. The legal stuff, the moving, setting up your new place. You won't worry about details. Family. The word tasted like poison. When would this happen? The eviction notice gives us a timeline, but we want to expedite things. No point dragging this out. After hanging up, I walked through my house, room by room. The kitchen where Margaret taught Rebecca to bake Christmas cookies. The living room where Marcus slept Christmas Eve, too excited about Santa. The workshop where I built their playhouse, their tree fort, their first bikes. Rooms full of love they were ready to sell to strangers. But they'd made one crucial error. They assumed I was attached to objects instead of principles. The house was just wood and stone. What mattered was justice. James Crawford called with updates on their legal maneuvering. Harold, Rebecca's adverse possession claim is even weaker than I thought. She's filed additional paperwork claiming financial elder abuse. Elder abuse? She's arguing your refusal to accept care constitutes self-neglect, giving them legal standing to intervene. Creative. Desperate. But Harold, are you sure about the will change? Once they discover it, this escalates dramatically. I'm sure, but I don't want them finding out until they've committed fully. What do you mean? I want them to sign contracts, make commitments, celebrate their victory, burn every bridge before they discover what it costs. Friday, Marcus called with good news. Harold, everything's arranged. Mountain View confirmed your unit for next month. Moving company can pack your stuff next week. And we accepted an offer on the house. An offer already? $2.9 million. Cash deal, quick closing. Buyers want to turn it into a luxury vacation rental. A vacation rental. 40 years of memories becoming someone's weekend getaway. That's $100,000 more than expected, Marcus continues. After costs, you'll clear about $2.7 million for your care fund. Wonderful. Rebecca's handling the paperwork, everything finalized by next week. So fast. No point prolonging the stress. After hanging up, I smiled for the first time in weeks. They'd done it. Committed fully to their plan, burned every bridge back to honesty, locked themselves into destroying me. Time for checkmate. I called Rebecca that evening. Kept my voice tired and defeated. Rebecca, I've been thinking about the financial arrangements. Oh, good, Harold. Marcus told you about the house sale? Everything's falling into place perfectly. That's what worries me. $2.7 million sounds like a lot, but I've been reading about long-term care costs. What if it's not enough? Trust us, we've done the math. Between the house and your other assets, you'll be completely covered. My other assets? Your investment portfolio savings, the construction company proceeds. We've been working with your accountant to understand your complete financial picture. So they'd been conducting their own asset assessment. How much do you think my total estate is worth? Based on Sarah's information, probably close to $15 million total. And you plan to use all that for my care? Whatever's necessary. We want you to have the best possible care. And whatever's left over? Pause. Eventually, whatever remains would become part of your estate, which you expect to inherit. Harold, that's not why we're doing this. Isn't it? Of course not. We're doing this because we love you. I see. And if I told you I'd changed my will, that wouldn't affect your decision. Another pause. What do you mean? I mean, hypothetically, if you discovered I'd left everything to charity, would you still think assisted living was best for me? Harold, you're talking hypothetically, right? Am I? Harold. Her voice went very quiet. Have you changed your will? 3 months ago. Everything goes to the Margaret Mitchell Foundation for cancer research. Every penny. The silence was so long, I thought the call dropped. Rebecca, you there? You're joking. I'm not joking. Harold, you can't be serious. $15 million to charity? Margaret died of cancer. She'd approve. But what about us? What about your family? What about you? We're your children. We've been your family for 15 years. Have you? Because you just tried to evict me from my house so you could sell it and warehouse me. We were trying to take care of you. You were trying to take control of my assets. Harold, this is insane. You can't give away $15 million out of spite. I'm not giving it away out of spite. I'm giving it away because Margaret would want her death to save lives. But we're your children. Are you? Because children don't serve eviction notices on their parents' birthday. Harold, you're being irrational. I'm being clear-headed. For the first time in years. Change it back. No. Harold, change the will back. We can work something out. Work what out? You've already sold my house. Already arranged my living situation. Already made it clear my preferences don't matter. We can cancel everything. Can you? You've accepted a cash offer. Signed assisted living contracts. Committed to legal proceedings based on my supposed incompetence. We can fix all that. Why would you want to? According to you, these arrangements are in my best interest. My financial situation shouldn't change that. Harold, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm letting my stepchildren follow through on their plans. I'm just not funding those plans with money you were never entitled to. Never entitled? We've been your family for 15 years. Family doesn't evict family. Family doesn't threaten competency hearings. Family doesn't lie about elder abuse to steal someone's home. We weren't stealing. What would you call it? Protecting you. From what? From bad decisions. Like living in my own house. Like isolating yourself and refusing help. I wasn't refusing help. I was refusing manipulation. Harold, please. Think about what you're doing. I have thought about it. For 3 months. Ever since I realized you'd been planning this since your mother's funeral. We weren't planning anything at the funeral. Marcus admitted it. Another long silence. Harold, what do you want from us? I don't want anything from you anymore. You made your choice. You chose my money over my dignity. Now live with the consequences. The consequences? You've sold a house you don't own, committed to legal proceedings you can't afford, burned every bridge back to a relationship with me, and you've done it all for an inheritance that no longer exists. Harold, you can't do this to us. I'm not doing anything to you. I'm doing something for cancer research. You did this to yourselves. The call ended with Rebecca screaming about legal challenges and family obligations. I poured myself Margaret's favorite wine and toasted to Justice served. Next morning brought frantic phone calls. First Marcus, trying to be reasonable. Harold, there's been a misunderstanding about this will situation. No misunderstanding, everything goes to charity. But that doesn't make sense. We're your family. Are you? Yesterday you were celebrating selling my house to vacation rental investors. We can cancel that sale. With what penalty fees? We'll figure it out. You'll figure it out with money you don't have to solve a problem you created for a relationship you destroyed. Harold, please, can we talk like adults? Adults don't ambush their parents with eviction notices. That was Rebecca's idea. And you went along with it. I thought you'd see reason. I did see reason. I saw that my stepchildren viewed me as a burden and my assets as their retirement fund. Then Rebecca called back with her lawyer voice. Harold, I've consulted about your mental state, and this irrational will change. Oh? Giving away $15 million to spite family is clear evidence of diminished capacity. Is it? Because I consulted my physician about that concern. Dr. Hendricks provided written assessment of my mental competency. Want me to send a copy? Harold, no rational person gives away their entire estate. No rational person evicts their father from his own house either. We're going to challenge this will. On what grounds? Undue influence, mental incapacity, fraud. Good luck proving that. James Crawford will testify I was completely lucid. Dr. Hendricks will testify about my competency. The timeline shows I changed the will before your eviction proceedings, not after. Harold, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm ensuring my money saves lives instead of funding people who don't appreciate what they have. That afternoon, they both showed up looking desperate and angry. Harold, Marcus says, we need to work this out. Work what out? The will, the house sale, everything. I thought everything was worked out. You made arrangements for my future. I made arrangements for my assets. We can't afford the penalties for canceling the house sale, Rebecca admits. How much? $200,000. That's expensive. We don't have $200,000. You should have thought of that before selling my house without consent. We had legal grounds. Did you? My attorney says your adverse possession claim is complete nonsense. We'll fight that in court. With what money? You can't afford house sale penalties, but you're funding a will contest? They exchange glances, starting to understand their problem. Harold, Rebecca says, what would it take to change the will back? Nothing. It's not changing. There has to be something. There is. But you can't provide it. What? 15 years of treating me like family instead of an ATM. We did treat you like family. Family doesn't plan inheritance strategies while the patriarch is alive and healthy. Marcus sat down heavily. Harold, what are we supposed to do now? Learn. Learn what? That actions have consequences. That manipulation costs money. That greed is expensive. We weren't being greedy. You were counting my money before I was dead. What do you call that? Being practical. Being predatory. Rebecca's composure finally cracked. Harold, you're destroying our lives. I'm not destroying anything. I'm saving lives through cancer research. You destroyed your own lives by choosing money over family. Fine, she says, standing up. If this is how you want it, we'll see you in court. For what? Mental incompetency, undue influence, whatever it takes. Rebecca, I'm 70, not 90. I'm in excellent health. I have documented medical and legal advice. What court overturns charitable bequests made by competent adults? We'll find one. With what legal fees? You can't afford house sale penalties, but you're funding prolonged litigation? We'll figure it out. Good luck. But understand something clearly. I'm not changing my mind. Not about the will, not about charity, not about what this family became. They left with their threats and desperation. I watched them drive away, probably for the last time. Next week brought the full scope of their disaster. Sarah Martinez called with updates. Harold, 3 law firms representing Rebecca and Marcus want access to your financial records. For what? Will contest preparation, looking for evidence of mental incapacity or undue influence. What did you tell them? Client confidentiality prevents sharing anything without your written consent. Which I'm not providing. Which you're not providing. But Harold, there's something else. They've missed mortgage payments on Rebecca's house. Mortgage payments? They were counting on your house sale proceeds to cover substantial debts. Without that money, they're facing serious problems. How serious? Rebecca owes $180,000 on her house. Marcus has credit card debt approaching $95,000. They were living beyond their means, assuming your estate would solve their problems. And now? Now they're facing foreclosure, bankruptcy, and legal fees for a will contest they probably can't win. That's unfortunate. James Crawford called with more updates. Harold, Rebecca filed preliminary paperwork for will contest, but there's a problem. What problem? She can't afford filing fees, requested payment plan, which the court denied. So contest is dropped? For now. But they've also filed for bankruptcy protection. Both of them? Both. And they've listed your house sale proceeds as expected income in their bankruptcy filings. Proceeds from a house they don't own. Proceeds they can't deliver to buyers they've contracted with. What happens to the buyers? They're threatening to sue for specific performance or damages. Rebecca and Marcus could owe the full purchase price plus legal fees. How much total? Potentially $3.2 million, plus attorney fees. More than the inheritance they were fighting for. Significantly more. The irony was perfect. They destroyed their lives, fighting for money that no longer existed. 6 months later, I stood in the lobby of the Margaret Mitchell Cancer Research Center. Construction workers were finishing touches on a facility that would serve patients for generations. Dr. Elizabeth Morris, the foundation director, had tears in her eyes showing me through state-of-the-art treatment rooms. Mr. Mitchell, this is going to change thousands of lives. Research capabilities, patient support, family counseling, exactly what your wife would have wanted. Margaret always said her death should serve a purpose. Have you heard from your stepchildren? Not in months. They're rebuilding their lives. New jobs, smaller houses, realistic budgets. Do you ever regret your decision? Never, not once. Even though they were family. Dr. Morris, family isn't defined by blood or marriage certificates. It's defined by respect, loyalty, love. Rebecca and Marcus chose money over all 3. But the story doesn't end there, because 3 weeks after that conversation, Marcus called me. His voice was different, broken. Harold, could I come see you? What for? I need to apologize, face to face. I almost said no, almost hung up, but something in his voice stopped me. Fine, 1 hour. Marcus showed up looking like he'd aged 10 years. His expensive clothes were gone. Driving an old Honda instead of that Lexus. Dark circles under his eyes. Thank you for seeing me, he said, sitting in my living room where he'd ambushed me with eviction papers. Talk. Harold, I destroyed everything. My marriage, my credit, my relationship with Jennifer. All for money that was never mine. Yeah, you did. I want you to know I finally understand what we threw away. Which was? A father who loved us. A man who treated us like his own kids for 15 years. A family that I destroyed because I was too greedy to appreciate what I had. He started crying then. Not manipulative tears. Real grief. I'm not asking for forgiveness, he said. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I finally get it. Get what? That I had something more valuable than any inheritance. I had you, and I threw it away for money. I studied his face, looking for the manipulation I'd learned to recognize. But this felt different, real. "What's your life like now?" I asked. "I work 2 jobs, live in a 1-bedroom apartment. Jennifer won't speak to me. Rebecca blames me for everything." He wiped his eyes. "But you know what? I deserve all of it." "Yes, you do. The worst part isn't being poor, Harold. It's knowing I destroyed something precious that can never be replaced." We sat in silence for a while, him crying, me thinking. "Marcus," I said finally, "you learned the lesson, but learning it doesn't undo the consequences." "I know. Some mistakes cost more than money." "I know that too. So what do you want from me?" "Nothing. I just wanted you to know that one of your stepchildren finally grew up, even if it was too late." After he left, I called Dorothy. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Sad. Not for him, but for the time we wasted, the relationship we could have had if he'd been honest from the beginning." "Do you think he's really changed?" "I think losing everything taught him what he should have learned as a child, but that's his journey now, not mine." Word about my case spread through legal circles. Other elderly people facing similar situations started reaching out. Detective Rodriguez from Elder Abuse began referring cases to me. "Harold," she said during one call, "we've got a situation in Phoenix remarkably similar to yours. Would you be willing to help?" The case involved a 75-year-old widower whose daughter-in-law was showing the same patterns Rebecca had used. I flew to Phoenix and spent 3 days teaching Robert Shen how to protect himself. "You saved my life," Robert told me after we caught his daughter-in-law forging checks. "Not just my money, my actual independence." "You saved yourself," I told him. "I just showed you the tools." That led to more cases. Sacramento, Seattle, Dallas. Elderly people learning to fight back against family members who saw them as ATMs instead of human beings. Each case was the same pattern. Adult children creating false narratives about mental decline, manipulating finances, isolating their targets from support systems. But they all shared one weakness. They underestimated their victims. "Harold," Detective Rodriguez said after our 6th successful case, "you're becoming something of a legend in elder protection circles." "I'm just a stubborn old man who got tired of being pushed around." "You're a stubborn old man who saved people millions of dollars and probably dozens of lives." The work gave me purpose I hadn't expected. Every predator we caught, every family we protected, every elderly person who learned to fight back, it felt like justice for Margaret, for me, for everyone who'd been dismissed because of their age. 2 years after Rebecca and Marcus's failed scheme, I was invited to testify before Congress about elderly financial abuse. Standing in that hearing room, I thought about Margaret and how proud she would have been. "Mr. Mitchell," the committee chair said, "your case has become a model for elder protection nationwide. What would you tell other elderly Americans facing similar exploitation?" "I'd tell them that being older doesn't make you weaker, it makes you wiser. You've got decades of experience these young predators don't have." "What about the technology aspect?" Many elderly people are intimidated by surveillance equipment, smartphones, legal documentation. Technology isn't the enemy, it's a tool. I learned to use an iPhone at 70. If I can do it, anyone can. I paused. Most importantly, I'd tell them that predators count on shame and isolation. The moment you start fighting back, you take your power back. The committee asked about prevention. "Education," I said. "Awareness and consequences. These predators succeed because they assume elderly people won't fight back. We need to prove them wrong." "What role do family members play?" "Real family members protect each other. They don't plot to steal from each other. If someone's trying to control your finances, question your competency, or isolate you from support, that's not family. That's predation." The hearing led to federal legislation requiring enhanced background checks for anyone seeking guardianship over elderly individuals. I was invited to the White House when the bill was signed. Standing in the Rose Garden, I remembered that morning when Rebecca and Marcus handed me eviction papers. They thought they were destroying a confused old man. Instead, they'd created an advocate who'd help protect hundreds of elderly Americans from similar schemes. At 75 now, I still live independently in the house Margaret and I built. The cancer center bearing her name has treated over 3,000 patients. The research funded by our foundation has led to breakthrough treatments that have saved countless lives. Rebecca never contacted me again after our final confrontation. I heard through Jennifer that she moved to Oregon, works as a paralegal now. Different name, different life. Maybe she learned something too. Jennifer and I rebuilt our relationship stronger than before. She moved back to Denver, bought a house 10 minutes from mine. We have dinner every Sunday, just like when she was growing up. Dad, she said last week, I keep thinking about what would have happened if you hadn't fought back. I'd be in some facility somewhere. Your inheritance would have been spent on their lifestyle. Margaret's memory would have died with her. Instead, you created something beautiful. I created consequences. Sometimes that's the most beautiful thing you can give someone. Dorothy and I got married 6 months ago. Small ceremony at the cancer center, with Dr. Morris officiating. At our age, we figured, why waste time? Harold, Dorothy said during our honeymoon in Tuscany, do you think Margaret would approve? Margaret always said life was for living. She'd be furious if I spent my remaining years alone out of loyalty to her memory. And the foundation? Will outlive us all. That's the point. Last month, I got a letter that made everything come full circle. From Sarah Chen, a young researcher at the Margaret Mitchell Cancer Research Center. Dear Mr. Mitchell, it began. You don't know me, but I'm one of the students whose education was funded by your foundation's scholarship program. I wanted you to know that we've just published breakthrough research on early-stage ovarian cancer detection that could save thousands of lives annually. Ovarian cancer, the same disease that took Margaret. Your wife's legacy isn't just in her name on the building, the letter continued. It's in every life we save, every family that gets more time together, every breakthrough that brings us closer to ending this disease. I called Dr. Morris. Is this real? I asked. This breakthrough? It's real, Harold. Sarah's research could revolutionize early detection. We're talking about catching cancer 5 years earlier than current methods allow. How many lives? Potentially tens of thousands annually once it's widely implemented. I sat in Margaret's chair, holding Sarah's letter, thinking about the strange mathematics of justice. Rebecca and Marcus had tried to steal $15 million to fund their comfortable lifestyles. Instead, that money was funding research that would save more lives than we could count. Margaret, I said to her photo on the mantel, I think we got this one right. That evening, Dorothy found me in my workshop, building a jewelry box for Sarah Chen's daughter. What's this for? She asked. A thank you gift. For the woman whose research might cure the disease that took Margaret. You know she's probably never going to meet Margaret. No, but Margaret's going to help save her daughter's generation from going through what we went through. Dorothy kissed the top of my head. You know what I love about you, Harold Mitchell? What? You turned the worst betrayal of your life into the best thing that ever happened to thousands of people you'll never meet. I turned greed into generosity. There's a difference. Same result. As I worked on the jewelry box, sanding each piece with the patience Margaret had taught me, I thought about legacy, real legacy. Not money passed down to ungrateful children, but impact that ripples through generations. Rebecca and Marcus wanted inheritance. They got nothing. Margaret and I wanted to matter. Our foundation will save lives for decades. That's the difference between taking and giving, between entitlement and earning, between family and blood relations. Some lessons cost $15 million to teach. But when the lesson saves thousands of lives, it's the best investment you ever made. Justice has many faces. Sometimes it's revenge. Sometimes it's consequences. But sometimes, justice looks like transformation. Grief into healing, betrayal into purpose, a wealthy man's estate into hope for thousands who'll never know his name. My stepchildren thought they were fighting for an inheritance. They were actually fighting for the right to waste $15 million on themselves instead of investing it in humanity's future. They lost that fight. Humanity won. The Margaret Mitchell Foundation will save lives long after the people who tried to steal its funding are forgotten. That's the difference between legacy and inheritance. Legacy lasts. Inheritance just gets spent. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video, subscribe to Justice Chronicles, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Where truth prevails, justice always finds its way.